The more cervix checks you have, the more likely you're going to have a C-section. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why. Hi, my name is Carly Bonderud, and this is the Empowered Birth Series, where I go deep into everything that you need to know to plan and get your empowered, true natural birth. If you've been following me for a while, then you already know. And if you're brand new to me, then let me just tell you, this is the Cesarean Trap series, which is season 3 of the Empowered Birth Series. So if you are brand new to me, you're going to want to check out the playlist on my YouTube channel. Go and check out the Cesarean Traps playlist and watch the first video in the series, because that is going to tell you the overview of what a cesarean trap is, how to spot it, why it's so prevalent, and how to get out of that trap. And then the next video in the series goes into the overview of the 21 traps that we are covering. After that, I've done individual videos of every single cesarean trap. This is trap number 18, which is vaginal exams. And I have done a video in the past on vaginal exams inside of season 2 of the Empowered Birth series, which is the natural birth traps. So this is one of those things that I really feel strongly about, because in my own birth experiences, no good comes from vaginal exams, okay? In fact, if I had been having a hospital birth instead of a home birth, and if I hadn't applied what I'm going to be teaching you inside of this masterclass, I probably would have had a C-section, because at one point my labor stalled because I had vaginal exams, I had a cervix check, and this reverse dilation. So I am going to tell you more about that, but first I just want to let you know that to get the most out of these masterclasses, you're going to want to treat this as if you had paid at least $97 to sit down and talk with me personally, because that is the level that I'm at when people come to me and they're like, I want to pick your brain for knowledge. And when they do that, they're paying $97 for 15 minutes of my time. So I'm giving you this time. It's a master class. You can watch it. You can watch it as many times as you want, but treat this as if you had actually paid to be here. Because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing with you my own experience with vaginal exams. I'm going to be sharing with you some information and some of the research that I've pulled. I'm going to give you additional resources to go through. And I'm also going to apply the Empowered Birth Method, which is my signature 3-step system that helps you come to your birth from a place of power, not a place of fear. And you're able to actually have confidence advocating for yourself, because this is the component that a lot of moms get tripped up on. You get all of the information and you're taking all of the typical childbirth classes, or you're watching a bunch of videos online, but it doesn't translate to our birth culture, and it does not translate to our medical system. So what I aim to do with this is to shift your mindset into the birth consumer, and to also shift you away from that fear-based conditioning that has you deferring to the experts. And I get it. I get the pressure of having vaginal exams. It's ingrained into our culture. So now I'm just going to go into the cesarean trap itself. As I said, this is going to be a much shorter video than typical ones, because I've already covered this trap extensively. I've said what the trap is. I've said how it undermines your confidence, how it sabotages your physiological birth, and how we basically fall into that trap and how to get out of it. So go and check out the Natural Birth Trap series, which is season 2. And check out the vaginal exams, because it will go into that deeper overview. All of my videos basically build on each other. So if I've done something in the past and I already have a body of work on it, there's no reason to redo it. You can go back and you can check the deeper dive on it. And I've talked at length about vaginal exams. If you're lost and you would like some direction on what exactly is out there, or some resources, you can always reach out to me. hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. I'm happy to help. You can also put it into the comments of the video itself, and then that gives everybody a chance, because they may all have the same question but not feel as confident to comment right away. because they're like, well, somebody else will ask that question. You need to be able to get the ball rolling. So if you do have that question and it will benefit everybody, then just ask it. And either I already have a resource on it and I can be like, oh yeah, that's in this video, here you go. And I drop that link for you. Or I'm like, oh, yeah, that's another angle that I can come in with. Thank you for that. And I will create another video resource on that so that everybody can benefit again, because information is free and I only charge for access to me. When my clients are coming to me, it's for a customized experience. It is taking all of my body of knowledge and wisdom and experiences and my network and everybody I'm in connection with. And they're like, here is my specific issue with my specific partner and my specific care provider. And this is what I'm dealing with. And this is the fears that are coming up for me. And this is my past history with my births. And this is the kind of personality that I have. And this is the challenge I have with saying no, or this is the challenge I have with communicating with my partner, or seeing that bigger vision for myself. And I need help with that. So that is where my book even comes in. Your Empowered Birth it's not typical birth education. Instead, it is helping you to come back to your own truth. And this is why my clients are able to have the kinds of experiences that they have. So the thing that you need to know about this trap is that it's everywhere. There's moms that are in the mom groups and they're like, well, can you tell me why vaginal exams aren't needed? Because my doctor seems to think they are. Or it's like, I hear all these other moms, they get checked and nothing happens. So is this something that I have to do? And they don't recognize that it's not. I'm going to be completely honest here. Nobody really wants to have fingers stuck up inside of them. Nobody really wants to have cervix checks. And before male doctors came into things and decided that they wanted to check the cervix, that was rarely done. It was only when the medical system decided that they needed to measure progress that they even thought, well, cervical dilation should prove it. Cervical dilation tells you nothing. This has been told over and over in the birth community. We have stressed it over and over that cervical dilation means absolutely nothing. But if you're still not convinced, I'm going to tell you my quick story. You can also read it inside Your Empowered Birth. I talk a lot about this with any of the other cervical dilation content that I've taught. And, it's just cervical dilation really means nothing. So now that you understand the backstory and understanding about cervical dilation, let me just get into the story of it. So when I was 40 plus 2, I'd been basically going into labor in and out for weeks on end with this prodromal labor. And you can learn more about this if you read my book, Your Empowered Birth, in chapter 4, because I do go into that story. I also talk about this a lot in other content, especially when it comes to cervical dilation. So even though I'd been collecting birth information for 2 years at this point, after the disappointing birth of my first baby and being tricked out of my home birth, I didn't know this component. I didn't know that this could happen. Okay. So I didn't even know that this was a thing. I understood that dilation proved nothing, but I didn't know that the cervix can actually reverse dilation. So I had called the midwife to the house, and this was mistake number 1 that I made is I decided to call her in. And because of the fact that I'd been going in and out of labor, I'm like, I'm curious. I want to know where I'm at. So I allowed her to check me. And what this did is now I was on the clock. I didn't realize this at the time. It didn't occur to me. I was just really curious. I wanted to know my dilation. And she said, you're 4 centimeters. I'm like, cool. So she stayed. And then 4 hours went by. Nothing was really happening. Nothing was progressing. And she's like, okay, I'd like to check you again. And I said, no. But the thing is that when you are in labor, the longer things drag on, the more curious you get. And even though I knew that cervical dilation means nothing, Even though I knew that I didn't enjoy people sticking their fingers up my cervix and I didn't want to do it, even though it was even in my birth plan that I wasn't going to have cervical checks, we get to another 4 hours. So now 8 hours have gone by. It's late at night. And the midwife is again like, I really think that we should check you. Now, when you're in labor, you can pick up on people's energy and their tone. And my good girl complex basically popped her little head in. And she's like, well, maybe it wouldn't be so bad to be checked. That exam was horrifically painful. When I describe it as horrifically painful. It was the worst thing I could have ever done. And I just remember thinking in that moment, oh my God, like this is horrible. And I was having a contraction at the same time. And the midwife was like, I need to know what the cervix is doing. The only good thing about this is that after labor had stalled out and my cervix closed back up from 6 centimeters to 3 centimeters, and the midwife went home and said, this is a false start. And I was like, I'm not bringing her back unless I'm going back into labor and it's far enough along. I called the doula the next night when I went back into labor, and she read over my notes to me. And she said, so basically what is written here is that when the midwife was checking you, you would dilate up to 6 centimeters, and then you would close up again after the contraction. And that was interesting data for me because it tells you that your cervix is doing like a little open, close, open, close. And then also, if you are feeling afraid, if you are feeling tense, your cervix is designed to close right back up. And many people don't know this. So the more you do these vaginal exams, what happens is that, first of all, they're not very comfortable, they're painful, they can cause you to feel afraid, they can also basically make you feel like you're not progressing at the level that you need to, and it is more likely that you're going to agree to interventions. But even if you don't agree to interventions, these cervix checks can also lead to you being told that you're failing to progress. I am under no illusions that if I had been in the hospital when this went on, they would have tried to get my labor going. But because I was at home, I was able to send the midwife away. So how do you basically apply this? Well, first of all, if you go into the hospital at the last possible minute, they're not going to do any vaginal exams. They're not going to have time. You're going to be pushing. If you go in too early, there's going to be a point where they keep asking and they keep suggesting it, and they're going to keep wanting to know where you're at in the process, and you are highly, highly suggestible. Even someone as stubborn as I am, like, I still said yes. I still gave in. And if I'd been in a hospital environment when I gave in, that would have gone very badly for me. But it already did, because my midwife was suggesting that if I didn't progress within the next 4 hours, she was going to have to consult with the obstetrician, and then it was likely that I would have to transfer to the hospital, thus derailing my home birth. Because of what I did with the empowered birth method, I was able to avoid that. So this is where the empowered birth method really comes in. Okay, remember how I've said in previous videos, the empowered birth method is not birth education. It's birth re-education and deprogramming. So what we do within the empowered birth method, and you can either choose to go through the do-it-yourself path, or you can take the self-study option. The highest level is my premium coaching. I don't work with everyone who comes to me. I want to make sure that it's a good fit, that you can afford it. If you can't afford my rates, I'm not going to have you pay and not be able to afford milk or not be able to afford a doula. That's not how I work. I make sure that information is freely accessible so that there are other paths for you. And with your Empowered Birth Academy, this allows you to invest a little bit of your money to be able to go through the core program, get the psychological deprogramming of the training, and come back to yourself with our three-pronged approach. And then in addition to that, you get a 15-minute Help I'm Stuck session. It's a laser coaching session. You can call that in. And I can help you with fear release techniques. I can help you get your partner on board. I can help you figure out if your care provider can actually help you and support you, or if they're a category 5. If they're a category 5, you cannot thrive. They are impossible to get to change their mind. Okay? So you need to know all of that ahead of time. And then at the end of your core program, however fast you go through it, it's about 6 hours of training. So, I mean, you can do it in 6 days if you really wanted to go fast, or you could do it in 6 weeks. But at the end of that, you also have a 45-minute session, which is deep dive laser coaching, where we are again looking at everything that you have put through, maybe your birth vision, your birth plan, what you've been doing of the extra work for fear release. And we look at all of that ahead of time. So you send it in as an email. And then we're like, okay, which area do you want us to focus on out of this? Because I can see this area here. I can see this one. We don't have time for everything in this 45-minute session. And we want to make sure that it's optimized for you. If you wanted to buy additional sessions, you can do that too. I mean, I'm not going to say this is the only session you ever get and you can't have anything else. That's not how we work here at Empowering Moms. I'm committed to you having an empowered birth at whatever level you need. And sometimes coaching as a package it's not accessible to everyone because my rates are not going to be affordable for everyone. And I'm aware of that. That's why I created the book. That's why I have the program. That's why I have these deep dive master classes. So I just want to preface that. And then also how we apply the empowered birth method to avoiding vaginal exams. First of all, you need to get past your fear and your people pleasing, because vaginal exams have been so ingrained in our birth culture. And there's this fear that if we continue to say no, something bad is going to happen, or it's going to upset our care provider. And we have been groomed for compliance. Even when you go to prenatal classes and going to appointments with your care provider, right from the beginning, you are groomed for compliance. And even before you get pregnant, you're groomed for compliance. So you have to get past fear. That's component number 1. The next thing is you need to have your partner on board, which means that your partner can't be like, well, maybe it's a good idea to have that vaginal exam. No, they have to be like, hey, I know you're freaking out right now. I know they just said that. I know they keep trying to wear you down, and I've got you. See, my partner did not have my back. So I was looking at it as I've got only myself to advocate. My partner I think he was in the kitchen having a beer. That's what I think my ex was doing. I can't remember because I was focused on labor. But he was really just letting the doula and the midwife do their thing, and he was hanging back doing his own thing. So recognizing you need to have your partner aware of this dynamic where the medical system is going to keep putting the pressure on so that they can have your back. Because once you have somebody on the outside who's close to you who has your back, then that allows you to let go of the fear and be able to trust and tune into yourself. So what you really need to understand is that you need to have your internal focus being on labor and working with your body and your baby. But the outside needs to be protection. And I talk about this a lot, even when I'm teaching my clients about how to get their partner to support them. A lot of my work with my clients is we meet together as like a couple, and then me, and I am facilitating that relationship. So I'm helping build trust between the mom and her partner so that by the time it's go time, partner's on board. I'm constantly showing ways for dad or partner to be the hero. I'm constantly showing ways, it's like, see how much you love each other and facilitating that relationship. So part of your Empowered Birth Academy has that component of showing how to get your partner on board. It's almost as good as if I was coaching you directly. I am going to be creating extra modules in the future on partner support, so watch out for those. When you purchase Academy, you're basically getting the core program and then anything else that is created after that. Because you're not paying for information, you're paying for access to those coaching calls. You're paying for me to look over your homework. And if you have any questions and you're like, hey, I need a resource on this, there's two options here. We can use that call that you've already paid for, or we can save it and I can create something that's going to benefit everybody. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? This is not something that we need to get on a call for. This is something that I just hadn't created a resource yet. Give me a day and I'll create a program, because it usually takes me about a day, sometimes a few days. And then there you go. Or I'll write something up. I'll just type up a resource for you. So this is why I say information is free and I only charge for access to me. If you have questions, put them in the chat or email the team, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. I'm happy to support you where you're at. Even if you could never afford my rates, I want to be able to help you get your empowered birth. You deserve it. So the final component, of course, is confidently saying no. You have to get over your people pleasing. You have to get over that conditioning that tells you that if somebody in a position of power and authority says, we need to do a cervix check because of XYZ, you need to be able to get rid of that hierarchy. You need to be like, no, this is somebody I've hired and I call the shots. I call this being the birth consumer, and it's another component of your Empowered Birth Academy. It's one of those pieces that I teach. You see, with my teaching, it's psychological. It's psychological reprogramming. So there's lots of videos already on my channel. You can check the Essential Tips series. There is a whole series inside of the Essential Tips itself, a mini series of Birth Advocacy 101. So you'll want to go through that. Another one that you'll want to check out is there's how to confidently say no live streams that I've done in the past. If you are stuck and you're like, there is a lot of stuff here, because I know I create a lot of resources. Whenever I'm in the mom groups, I get inspired and I would just go live on my Instagram or go live on Facebook. Like, this was just something that I did, and I used to do live streams inside of a Facebook group. Now I do the deep dive masterclasses. That's my core content. And then in addition to that, sometimes I get inspired and I create a whole training. I create a challenge. So there's a lot here. There's also PDFs, there's ebooks, there's my book, Your Empowered Birth. There are things within that book that if it's like, hey, Carly, I need to know how to do this. And I'm like, oh, I got this resource. How deep do you want me to go? Like, I can go really deep with this. And you may not need the deep dive. You may just need the surface levels. So this is why I say comment, or if you don't want to be visible, you can always email me, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. Because when you're able to confidently say no, that's it. No vaginal exams are going to happen if you can confidently say no. If you can spot who's a category 5 care provider who would hold you down and force a vaginal exam, yes, this happens. And this is exactly why I teach the Empowered Birth Method, because I want you to be able to spot those people. And I want moms to be able to be like, I'm not hiring that care provider. My whole stance is change or GTFO of maternity care. And the only reason that these care providers are attracted to the profession in the first place and would do this to moms is because of their own sense of needing to have control. And when you have people that would rather just teach you a lesson rather than support your birth, those people cannot be in maternity care. They do not belong there. They are there because they were attracted to the money, the power, the prestige. But if we flip the script on them and be like, no, 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 I'm in control. I'm the birth consumer. I hire you. You work for me. That takes the ego out of it. And then they drop their mask and you can see who they are. And you're like, oh, I would not even think about going to this hospital because this is what they typically do to people who don't comply with what they want. I'm not going to hire that care provider because they are going to keep trying to force something on me. I mean, there's a term that if somebody isn't wearing a white coat and doesn't have the term doctor, if they are forcing their fingers up inside of you, you know what that is. So in any other context, that's what it is. So why is it okay in the birth space? Well, again, it's because profit, convenience, liability, and the pillars of misogyny were built. Like, that's how the system was created. It was created in a time when women didn't have agency, when the baby was the precious commodity, and nobody really cared. And you had to leave your dignity at the door. But you should not have to leave your dignity at the door. There's no reason to have a vaginal exam if you don't want one. And they don't really tell you anything. If you do want to know, there is something inside of the Natural Birth Trap series when I talked about vaginal exams on things to consider of when you might want one. But outside of that, you just don't do it. You just don't need it. So you need to be able to confidently say no. Okay, so now that you have the overview of everything about how this is a trap, why it is a trap, the resources that you'll want to check out to enhance your education with this video, and I told you the empowered birth method, let's quickly recap. Why are vaginal exams more likely to lead to a C-section? Well, because when you have the vaginal exams, your cervix is not a crystal ball. It can't actually predict how long labor is going to last. And the worst one is that you could actually close up. You could be so horrified by the level of pain that's involved in that vaginal exam, and they don't even mean to do it, but just the nature of the vaginal exam can cause that pain, especially when you're having a contraction. What that will do is stall your labor, which then causes the medical system to be like, oh, now we need to get things going. They're more likely to offer Pitocin. They're more likely to try to break your waters if they have not been broken yet. They are more likely to say you're failing to progress and it's a C-section. So when you recognize that the vaginal exam, it can actually do more harm than good, then you know to avoid it. And with the empowered birth method, get past fear, have your partner have your back, and confidently be able to say no. And let go of that people pleasing. Let go of just doing what you're told to make it easier for everybody else around you. You need to be strong in this. Okay? So that's everything I have for you today. Next week, what we're going to be talking about is trap number 19, which is the induction. So stay tuned for that. And then we're going to almost be done this series, okay? We only have a few episodes left, and then we're going to be moving on to something else. So if you found value in this, please like, share, subscribe, pay it forward, pass this on to other moms. A drop in the ocean creates ripples. Many ripples create waves, and enough waves can change the tide. Here at Empowering Moms, I'm all about changing the tide. And, you know, if you are in the birth space, eventually you're going to be in the motherhood space. And Empowering Moms is two different pillars. One is empowered birth wisdom, which is what this whole channel really embodies. And the other one is empowered mom magic. Now, in empowered mom magic, that encompasses every other aspect of your life. from birthing a business and impact, your creative vision for your life, your family, your relationships with your children and with your extended family, with your friends. All of it is encompassed in Empowered Mom Magic, because when you have an empowered birth, you're an empowered mom for life, and no one can take your power away from you again. And I recognize this, and I even talk about this inside of my book, Your Empowered Birth, that when I took that same process of how I came to my pregnancy and how I was advocating strongly for myself, how I showed up in my birth with my daughter, I recognized the ripple effect that came out to all areas of my life, where I recognized what wasn't working, what was not serving me, what I had been overlooking, especially in my relationship with my children's father. And then I was able to set myself free. So if you are interested in that, I do have a weekly newsletter, and I have the Empowered Mom Toolkit. The toolkit is essentially a Google Drive that contains all of my book bonuses from any book that I'm creating. It also contains extra little chapters. Chapter 5 of my books is always the 5 pillars. And then in addition to that, I sometimes add extra little things, like maybe little courses and stuff that's not open just to the public. So having access to that Google Drive gives you more access to Empowered Birth Wisdom and Empowered Mom Magic. I also put out a weekly newsletter that gives you more of an overview of what's going on in my life and how it translates to the theme of the week. I give you the overview of what has been created for you, like what new courses and what new videos are out there. And maybe I also created a new little document because I got inspired, and it's either in Empowered Mom Magic or Empowered Birth Wisdom, depending on where it falls on the spectrum. So to get access to that, go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/toolkit, and that will get you on the newsletter, and you'll have instant access to that toolkit. So that's pretty much everything. Thank you so much for watching. Whether you're birthing a baby, a business, a creative project, a movement, or a new version of yourself, Empowering Moms is here for you. And I will see you next week. Namaste.